Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us for the 2021 College of Law Careers Academy. We're really excited that you can join us from all over Australia. So we're just going to wait a couple minutes. We've opened the gates just a couple of minutes before one, just to let you all in. And I can see you all pouring through the door virtually. So welcome for wherever you are across our beautiful country. For those that are in lockdown especially, thank you very much for sharing your time with us, and I hope you're all keeping safe and well wherever you happen to be. So welcome everyone. You can see our wonderful panel on the screen, and I will be introducing you shortly, but this is the Legal Futures panel, very first session of our Careers Academy for 2021 kicking off today. So thank you very much for joining us. We of course this is the grand opening, big extravaganza. So we're not even saving the best for last. We're going straight in, punching above our weight right from the beginning. So it's going to be a really exciting week, and we hope that you can join us for some of the other sessions that we have planned across the week. If you can't make those live, if you have to work or you have other commitments, you will receive all of the recordings later on. After this week has finished, you'll get an email with all the links. So welcome to everyone. Well, there's still people ticking in. Welcome everyone, welcome. My name is Jackie Owen. I'm the Relationship Manager at the College of Law based in Queensland. So I'm very excited to be kicking off our Careers Academy 2021 with our Legal Futures panel. So I'm very pleased to be introducing you to Terry Mottershead, who is our Executive Director for the Centre for Legal Innovation at the College of Law, and Terry will explain a little bit about what that is all about. But we have got an esteemed panel who are very knowledgeable and experienced in legal technology, the future of the legal profession in regards to innovation, how it's changing, what the opportunities are for you as new lawyers coming into our profession. So you will have the opportunity also to ask questions. So there is a question and answer function down the bottom that you'll be able to interact and engage with the panel. There's a chat function there if you'd also like to leave comments, and I'll disappear into the background, but I'll be monitoring your questions throughout the hour and passing them on to Terry to ask our panel. We of course will probably not be able to get to every single one of your questions, so we do apologize in advance for that, but we'll do our very best to answer as many as we can. But we've got a great hour planned for you, and Terry will be introducing our esteemed panel and talking more about the future of the profession, so legal futures. So welcome to the 2021 Careers Academy brought to you by the College of Law and Practical Legal Training at the College of Law. If you do have any questions about PLT, you can of course contact me. My name is Jackie Owen, and I'll hand over to Terry to kick off the introductions of our panel and the discussion. So thanks, Terry.
Thanks so much, Jackie. And woohoo, everybody. Welcome, as Jackie said, to this amazing event that we're holding annually now. I'm Terry, as she said, and I lead the Centre for Legal Innovation. The Centre for Legal Innovation is a think tank that monitors basically trends of change or transformation in our industry, in our ecosystem, and seeks to translate those into bite-sized pieces that can be used in practice on a day-to-day basis. And the panel that you're going to hear from very, very shortly are people that are actually doing exactly that, looking at what's changing in the industry and bringing those into their practices of different sizes and different places, literally all around Australia. So just an amazing situation. So here's the thing that I wanted you to throw into the chat to kick us off while I'm kind of doing these intros. Please let us know what you would like to hear about in terms of legal futures. Just throw it straight into the chat now. And if you've got a question, we're going to put those in the Q&A. But in terms of your engagement and giving us some background on all of this, as I say, just throw that into the chat right up front. The first question that I'm going to address to our panelists today is to get them to give you their background. And the reason that I'm asking them to do that is because their background is not only just fascinating and amazing, but also because you'll see in that background, potential differences or changes or different paths that you can take within the profession as well. So I'm just going to say initially, of course, welcome Ben, Jemima, Riz, and Jennifer. We are beyond delighted to have you here today. And I'm going to kick off with you, Ben. Tell us your story.
Thanks, Terry. Welcome, everybody. My story is as follows. I grew up in Toowoomba, west of Brisbane in regional Queensland. Toowoomba's about 120 to 150,000 people if you include the outlying regions. I went to university at the university here in Toowoomba and did an accounting, commerce, law degree combined. I then got a job as an articled law clerk in the old scheme where you did articles of clerkship indentured to your master. I then became a partner in a long-standing firm, and then I left that firm to set up my own firm, Clifford Goultson Lawyers, and Clifford Goultson has grown out of Toowoomba into now having offices in Brisbane, the Sunshine Coast, and visited offices in Sydney and Melbourne. And last year, we launched our startup law firm, Bolter, Make It Happen. So Bolter is powered by Clifford Goultson Lawyers and our team. And I've had a great load of fun over the last 25 years doing my craft, and having a good time along the way is pretty critical given the amount of hours we spend. So that's me in a nutshell.
Fantastic, Ben. Thank you. And folks, if you want to learn more about Bolter, because we're not going to have a chance to probably get into the detail, there is a fabulous video and podcast from Ben on the Centre's free resource hub for you to jump into as well. Thank you for that, Ben, on many fronts now, as the case may be. Riz, let me go over to you and ask you, what's your story?
So I'm originally from Cardiff. I grew up there, so notwithstanding the Scottish accent. I studied at Aberdeen University and ended up practicing there in private practice while I was there. I moved from Aberdeen then to Australia and practiced private practice initially before moving in-house and working for a bank and then an insurance company. In between all of that, I also did a master's degree in information technology and telecommunications law because I was always interested in tech and how it worked and how it would benefit. In between all of that, I've been a bit of a serial entrepreneur. I started my first business repurposing dolls when I was 8 and selling for a profit. I also ran an e-commerce business online for 10 years. And I started Find in September 2019 as a purely online legal service. And I run it as a business rather than a law firm. And I absolutely love what I do.
We can see that in your amazing, apart from many other things, social media posts. So if you're not following Riz on social media in any way, shape or form yet, do it. It's definitely worth it. They're really, really amazing and very entertaining, which is great. You wouldn't necessarily say that about law firms, would you? Certainly not 10 years ago. So it brings me to you, Jemima. Tell us your story. Oh, might have frozen a little bit.
Terry, and hi, everyone. It's great to be here. Can you hear me? Sorry. Speaking of technology is not my friend today. So my story, I went to uni in Sydney at Macquarie Uni. I now live in Brisbane, and at CSIRO, which I absolutely loved. Working, it blew my mind that there was the possibility of working in-house and with the sorts of people who work there. I then went and worked for a small firm for a while to see what was like on the other side, but the lure of working in-house was too much, and I moved back in-house into a technology business after about 5 or 6 years. And since then have worked in various in-house roles across a number of different industries, technology, industrials, infrastructure. And then moved into a role with a new law business and had a couple of roles within that business. But I guess the key ones to mention were I headed up the business of Lex Voco here in Queensland, where I now am, and that was a really interesting role. That business was a secondments legal ops business and a law firm, and later moved on to be the head of legal ops and tech at LOD after they acquired Lex Voco. And so I guess I've spent the majority of my career working in and with in-house legal teams, and that's kind of really been my focus. And what I particularly love is helping other lawyers to really improve the way that they work through process improvement and, where appropriate, technology. That's kind of really my bag, and that's kind of led to me to my current role as legal and strategic projects director at Megaport. And I'm really lucky to have a role which, whilst within the legal team, is a dual legal and commercial role. So I get to do the lawyering, but also help put some of those commercial and strategy skills into play and work across the business, which is very exciting.
You know, Jemima, as I'm listening to that and the fascinating things that you've done, it's almost like, in a way, as the legal ecosystem has evolved, you've had the opportunity to evolve your career right alongside it. So, you know, you're indicative of the changes, in a way, that are taking place in the profession, right? So very exciting.
Yeah. I think so. I'm not sure if it was always deliberate, but I like that description.
It's yours. You can take it away and keep it forever.
Thank you.
And Jennifer, last but certainly not least, tell us your story.
Thanks, Terry. Hi, everybody. So I also went to the University of Aberdeen, like Riz, and then we met halfway, not halfway, the whole way the other side of the world, which is such a small world. So yeah, after university, I did my law degree, and then I was desperate to start working. So I found myself working at Ashurst in our Glasgow office in Scotland as a legal analyst, and that was a completely new role to me. It is essentially a combination of paralegal and junior lawyer work. But the difference is it's across a number of practice areas in the firm, and the aim of that role and the team is to deliver client-focused and technology-led solutions, with obviously the more for less demand that we're seeing nowadays, and ensuring that the right people are doing the right skills and the right work. So I began with that role, and then when I was in that role, I was given the opportunity to come out to Brisbane to help in training the new team here. So a sister office essentially was created in Brisbane, and I came out here to support the team, particularly with the work we do in the dispute resolution and e-discovery space. And I enjoyed it so much that I decided to extend my stay for a few more years, and now I am a manager in our team, and I manage the team of legal analysts here, as well as work closely with the lawyers to help them find solutions to support them with their matters. So for example, a typical day for me, our team will be asked to assist on reviewing documents for discovery or in response to a notice from a regulator. And through the use of active learning technology and working alongside other teams within the division, we can help to complete the work in the most efficient and effective way. And I oversee that process between all the different teams to deliver that work. So yeah, it's been a really great experience so far in my career, and it's really helped me to build my career and challenge. It's been a challenge as well to work with the team, especially in the early stages, and also see the talent that there is in Brisbane to help grow our team in this region.
But really indicative of how teams are changing, being constructed, and how they're changing in terms of expertise too, right, Jennifer, though, because, becoming increasingly multidisciplinary, which is fantastic. I wanted to move into kind of, I guess, the first part of this in a way. And in doing that, I want to, if I can, pick up a number of questions that have been coming through. And that's really looking at how the legal industry has changed, and perhaps even more particularly how it is changing going forward. And so I'm going to kind of address a few of these questions to you specifically, because they're some of the things that folks are asking about. So one of the first questions I wanted to address is for you, Riz, and it's about this whole thing around virtual practice, or practicing virtually, because I know that's near and dear to your heart. And I guess, what is that, firstly, so that people can understand that? But do you see that kind of expanding in the future as well?
short answer, yes, to that last point. I believe so. Just to give you a flavor of what I do, I basically use technology to allow me to run my business online. And I use it to make the business efficient, that client journey efficient as well. And I, use things like a calendar app, Zoom, for example, those kind of things to enable that to happen. So I don't have to meet clients in person necessarily. However, I appreciate that not all areas of law and practice would enable the kind of business I run, if that makes sense. But for me, because I do commercial corporate work, contracts in particular, so it lends itself really well to have as a virtual or online business. So basically, I just need a laptop and Wi-Fi, and I can be anywhere essentially due to the nature of what I do. And I made that a very specific decision to be able to do that and focusing on what I focused on. So I use technology to my advantage as a consequence. So I use various different apps. I have a website, I have social media, etc. I try not to rely on third-party sites like social media, like Instagram, etc. Having my own website was important. Having systems and processes like a calendar app, having Zoom and those kind of functionalities available to provide the services that I do, having whether it's Google Drive or OneDrive, so I can share documents with my clients, so it's paperless as well, so it's great for the environment as well. So that's kind of essentially, like I said, use tech to enable me to run a virtual business. And yes, I believe I can see it expanding. I don't see why not, but there may be some issues depending on the nature of what somebody would practice as well as to how it would lend itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. We've got a bunch of questions, not surprisingly, on AI and tech. So I'm going to try and break these down and just kind of work our way through them. So Jemima, if I might put this question to you around AI and tech, and I'm going to go with the broad one first, and that is, and I'm just going to read it, is the future of AI a threat or an opportunity to lawyers and law firms? And I'm guessing I know the answer for you for that one, Riz. So Jemima, what are your thoughts about that? And speaking of tech, just want to make sure you did hear that question. Yeah.
I did. Thank you. Hopefully you can hear me answering it. Wave your arms if you can't. So I think it's potentially a bit of both. I think it's absolutely an opportunity, as with all tech, to improve and eliminate some of the work that is a bit mundane and repeatable. And I think there's a real opportunity for law firms who embrace that. There's different ways of working and using the technology to do some tasks that don't necessarily need the higher level skills that we learn as lawyers, but even some of the really clever AI that I've seen out there can do some things like contract review work and prepare a markup of a document in as good as a human lawyer, which is pretty amazing. So I think it's a real opportunity for businesses, for law firms and other legal businesses to, I guess, enable work to be done faster and at a higher volume, and also to improve consistency. And I guess the threat is that a lot of that technology is expensive, and not all businesses can invest in that. And if you don't keep pace with technology or adapt in another way, it can be a threat to your business. But I think I'd probably view it mostly as an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jennifer, I wanted to come to you next, because with more tech, there's more data. So now I'm in your happy place, right? Talking about data. How critical is it for lawyers to have skills around, for example, data analytics? And where do you see that data showing up in terms of use in practice?
I think that, so just to clarify, the kind of data that I would work with is data that we get from clients, where we are receiving huge amounts of data from them, and then they're basically saying, help us to do something here. And that's a lot of my role in terms of working with teams to reduce that and to find where the most important data is that they need, what actually the I guess needle in the haystack is sometimes as well. And that's why using technology as well is obviously a huge benefit to us, and for us in terms of time, and it allows us to also work on other projects and with other clients as well, but really for the client to reduce the cost that it is to them and the time that we spend on doing it. So the data point, it's essential that we have the right technology, but also the right people, because I think it's a common misconception that with technology that's just going to eradicate the need for the humans as well, but actually it's us that need to be looking at that and identifying where we can reduce that data, and then we apply the technology, and that's what becomes really helpful. So we still need all the skill there available, and the ability to review and train the technology to make sure that we have the right information, basically, so that it can do the job.
So kind of if I'm hearing and kind of combining what you and Jemima were saying, in terms of tech and AI, there's a bunch of tech tools that are now available, but they're also producing a lot of data that is helping us make decisions as well as operate our practices quite differently. Is that a fair? Yes, I see you both nodding, so I've got that right. Excellent. All right, thank you. Ben, I want to throw to you and pick up one of the questions here as well, if I may. Given what Rez was saying about the nature of her practice and tech and AI and data, all of those coming together now in the practice of law, how have you seen that changing? For example, perhaps in not just delivery, but even the practice areas? Are there practice areas that are new and emerging, or some that are more hot than others? Because Riz mentioned that, the nature of her practice may not work for every practice area. So how are you see that coming together? Because I know you've been really thinking about this at your firm, and particularly in terms of, even the deciding to launch Bolter. Yeah.
Terry, I think there's a couple of points that probably are worth making for those online watching and participating. The first point is practice areas certainly sometimes dictate whether or not they are more predisposed to digital service delivery. So an example may well be where there's one-dimensional data gathering to then populate documents, and it doesn't necessarily have multifaceted or multi-layered algorithmic solutions. You can readily, no matter where you are digitally, use technology to grab that data. It need not necessarily be a face-to-face meeting, interview, take the data, go away and use that data to draft a document. It can now be an online web form. It can be a voice-to-text conversation that's recorded, which then the AI can create the data that enters it into the legal document. So that's one facet, and you can imagine certain practice areas are more predisposed to that than other practice areas. But even where the other practice areas might be more complicated and have algorithmic complexities and variations, and the decision tree might be very sophisticated, parts of it can be done that way. So I suppose that's one piece of the puzzle. The second piece of the puzzle is just everyone's movements these days, obviously completely ramped up because of COVID. There are certain limitations that exist now in our movements and our capability to move, that you really need to be creative around how you're going to interact with your clients in circumstances where that old face-to-face may not be possible or may not be desirable. And once people have seen efficiencies through digital delivery, then they don't want to go back to the commute, travel, cost, delay, uncertainty of lockdown. And so you're even finding that the digital apparatuses that you might have explored in, say, agreement, corporate commercial drafting, are starting to show up even in the more traditional, very bulky litigation, interviewing a witness, taking their proof of evidence, trying to access thousands of documents, or possibly hundreds of documents that might have been physically needing to be accessed. Well, now you're trying to find ways to do it digitally or virtually so that you can be efficient in what you're doing. So I hope that just taps into the question that you've asked of me, Terry.
It does indeed. And thank you very much. And I wanted to do a quick follow-up on that in terms of a question that's just come in, and I'm going to paraphrase it. And that is, again, with all that you're saying, and again, looking at technology and AI and the ability to do things differently, we seem to see in practice now an evolving self-help option that sometimes goes through law firms or sometimes bypasses them completely. There's lots of pros and cons to that, but of course the big pro to it is that hopefully it is making legal services more broadly accessible. And I know, again, Ben, if I may start with you on this one, that you've been thoughtful and reflective on this as well. How do you see that stacking up in terms of traditional legal practice? I'm going to go there, and this evolving self-help opportunity, I'm going to call it, because of technology and AI and all of the stuff that we've been talking about.
Yeah, I think in time we will see legal service delivery by humans still absolutely in demand, and the areas where access information, informed decision making using automated documents that perhaps are at a lower price point or free will grow, and the places where the humans play will be increasingly at the value added end, where you're adding in your understanding of the client's risk profile, their organizational risk profile, their decision-making processes, and the layers through which they need to move to get a decision actioned. What you'll see is, I think, there'll be an increased propensity for the humans to play at that end. And this is why the practice of law these days is so different than what it used to be. I remember 25 years ago, the practice of law really was one-dimensional. It was subject matter expertise. Learn your stuff and give the advice. Whereas increasingly, as you at the coalface, I suppose, Terry, of thought leadership, know better than most, and as the College of Law continues its journey, it's teaching the students, you've now got sort of personal effectiveness or emotional intelligence, communication skills. That's an extra element you need to have. You also need to have business and operations going on, project management and data analytics and business fundamentals. You need to know about how to read a P&L and a balance sheet. So there are almost these three components to practicing law these days. And I think you've got to use the AI and use the technology to your advantage, so you're playing as much as you can in that space. Does that?
Yeah, absolutely. That digital literacy bit. And I know we're going to come back and explore that a little bit more, but yeah, absolutely. Riz, I just want to stay with this question just for a sec and put it to you, because your practice does this. How do you, I'm going to say balance, it's probably not quite the right word, but how do you balance the self-help aspect of your practice with, as Ben was saying, where you bring in your expertise? How do you bring those two together in terms of a contemporary practice?
So as you know, I sell templates online, and I also offer a course, and I have blog articles. So it's going to book online. I'll try and talk through that and see if I can get somewhere with this, where I'm going. And so when we talk for the first time, I'll know from that conversation and what they're telling me and what we're talking about, whether they should be directed towards the self-help element of my business, or whether they need something more unique and custom, shall we say. And that's something I'm very conscious of, where they don't make those calls to me. And so we make sure there's information, and we use AI on the website, and I'm working and trying to get that more effective as well. And it still requires a person to enable that to happen for the consumer, so to speak, to come to that website and ask questions through certain software we have on the website to decide whether they rely on the self-help or whether they need to come and have a conversation with me. So I'm using a combination of tech and what that one-on-one in order to ascertain what the client's needs are in order to direct them to the right option for them. But in addition to that, I guess, even where they do go for the self-help option and they decide, well, you know, this is great, but I still need some extra support, they can still do that as well. So offering those options, it's all combined with that personal one-on-one, as well as utilizing AI, as well as making sure there's sufficient information on, you know, my website, and how I talk to them through my socials as well, and how I direct those conversations. All of that paints a picture to them of what they can achieve working with us.
It's a brilliant way to express it, Riz, that it does paint a picture. There's a fluidity to that, rather than this bit, you know, segmented, that there's something, a theme that's flowing through all of that. And it seems to me predominantly that theme, from what you were saying, was being very client focused and client centered.
Absolutely.
Obviously.
Absolutely.
As well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wanted to pick up a few more of the questions that are there, and I'm going to throw these ones to you, Jemima and Jennifer, if I may. There's a lot of questions here around, again, not surprisingly, career and, you know, how to develop your career. So I'm going to pull some bits and pieces together here. One of the first questions I want to pick up on is someone is trying to make a decision, and this is for you, Jemima, you won't be surprised in a second whether it's coming to you first, between in-house and private practice. And I guess, you know, in the past, that's a way that we've kind of seen our careers, right? It's kind of either or something. And I'm just wondering, is that really the way that it goes now? Is it something linear, or is it not either or, but either and? So I'm throwing that question to you, Jemima.
Yeah, thank you. I think it probably is. Well, if it's linear, it's not a straight line. I think it can be a bit of both. And I think a lot of, you know, probably a more traditional view would be you should start out working in a law firm and then do that for a while before you consider going in-house, and then, you know, that's your path. Or if you like, you know, in the private practice type of practice, or that's the kind of work that you enjoy, then you go into a law firm and you progress through the ranks to become a partner. But I think that's very much not the case anymore. And I think there are multiple iterations. It's a bit of a choose your own adventure, really. It's probably almost overwhelming, the level of choice that there is, because you could do a couple of, you know, different versions of that. There are a number of really interesting new law businesses, legal tech businesses, and you know, different ways of working within all of the above that you know, you can put your technical legal skills into practice, but, you know, bring a whole lot of other skills and experience in. So I definitely think, I think careers today are increasingly less linear, and there's definitely more than two paths, which I think is really exciting.
And I guess there's some of those, like if we take Ben's firm, for example, speaking for you here, Ben, sorry. But, you know, you've got a business within a business, right? So you could be in-house or in a law firm, but then there's, for want of a better expression, an offshoot that you might find better suits your skill set that you can channel yourself to. I just want to get a quick, yeah.
So we've got examples that have occurred where virtual secondments occur to clients. So we have people employed here who virtually, they don't even physically go, they virtually are seconded in. We have physical secondments to clients for in-house counsel roles. We have people who work in this business as owners who maintain relationships with in-house part-time. and that's a contractual choice. You can start up a business in our business. That's how Bolter started. So there's range of permutations, and the reality is you've got to keep your mind open.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to explore some of that in a little bit more detail, so just bear with us, folks. But Jennifer, I wanted to come to you, and thank you again for sharing your background. I'm curious in this discussion, at what point in time you kind of decided data was your thing? You know, what were there? Was it did the forces become aligned around something, or what were those forces? Was it always something that was in your background that just all of a sudden blossomed? You know, how did that decision come about, I guess?
I don't think it was at all planned. I have to say that. That's the bit that's exciting about it. So, you know, kind of what you were saying as well about the you know, linear like model as well. I think that when I was in university, which wasn't even like all that long ago, there wasn't huge talk about the different roles that you could go into. So for me, it was still okay, go and, you know, practice law and go down that sort of traditional pathway. And you know, even now, I'm obviously like, there's part of me that's still keen to go into a practicing role at some point in the future. But I think the way that I found myself in the role that I am in now, it did just develop, and I started to have a bit of an eye opener to things that I didn't understand and didn't realize were out there, and the wealth of opportunities really that there are. And even within my role now, I am constantly learning about more roles, and yeah, it's certainly somewhere that I've not certainly not planned, and I would say, I guess, I've fallen into, because that's the great thing about having that sort of portfolio of experiences now, is you can actually find where your strengths lie, and what it is you're interested in. And then, you know, these are all really transferable skills that I think for students that are graduating and starting out in their career, you're able to say, okay, I do have more options now. I can either start off as a lawyer and take that knowledge maybe into a different role in the future, to see, okay, here's the challenges and areas for improvement, and be able to use your experience as a lawyer to help drive that change. Or the other way, which I have done, is start out in that sort of new law space, have an understanding of legal project management or legal transformation, for example, or you know, e-discovery, data, all that kind of thing, and then be able to put that into play as a lawyer in the future, because all of that knowledge will help to bring the right solutions to the clients, because it's about finding that particular solution for the client and tailoring it to their needs. And I think that, sorry, I know I went off on a tangent there, but I guess it's one of these things where that's the exciting bit, is that you can, there's so many different roles now that you can really find where your passion is, find where your strengths are, and play to these strengths in a number of different roles within firms now.
It was actually a perfect segue. So no, it was brilliant. Thank you very much. And here's where we're going with the segue. And again, picking up some of the questions and the chat that we've got coming through there. And this is about, you know, how do law students in particular prepare for the future now, today? And some of what I'm hearing from you in the thoughts that you've shared so far is it's really important to be somewhere engaged with how much the industry is changing, you know, because it is, and probably more so than it ever used to be. I guess when you know, when we go to law school, it's very easy to be very siloed, you know, and just kind of stick within a box. But it seems that it's more and more important to break out of that box and really know what's going on. But the other one I really picked up, particularly from you, Jennifer, was this focus on therefore being able to understand opportunities and to seize them. And so, and it certainly in my career, I would say those opportunities have never, ever come at a convenient time. Never come at a convenient time. So I guess it's being willing to embrace them as well. But I wanted to ask all of you this question, because in different forms it's coming up in the question in the questions in the chat. And again, how can law students today, right now, prepare themselves for the sort of future that you're living and that we've been talking about? And Riz, I wanted to, if I may, start with you on that question.
Oh my goodness, it's a heavy loaded question there.
I know.
Terry.
It's all right. No pressure.
So I think, depending on what they're teaching at law school right now, it would be great to get a handle on business and business development, as well as social media and tech. I mean, that's a lot right there straight away, to be honest. But there needs to be, a better understanding, I guess, of the real practicalities of doing what you do, not just the subjects, not just studying criminal law, ethics, or what have you. Also, if there's opportunities to take on work placements or part-time work or anything like that, and it doesn't have to be with law firms. It can be with legal tech firms, it can be in-house roles, it can be many of those things. It can even be with social media marketing companies, for example. It depends on where your passion lies and what really intrigues you, because there's so much. I mean, there's a growth now in influencer laws relating to influencer marketing, for example. There's so many different ways in which you can then go and get that experience, the work experience, if you like, whether that's through what you learn at university, and hopefully, I can see from, talking with you and working with you, Terry, that changes are happening in terms of what's being offered to students, which is fantastic. But also for the students themselves, to think outside the box in terms of the kind of work experience, and don't just think, hey, I need 3 months under my belt with a top tier law firm. And not that there's anything wrong with doing that either, but to, think outside the box when you want to go and get that work experience.
Yeah, brilliant advice. And the other thing you touched on there too is like being able to identify those new and emerging areas.
Yes.
You touched on one, but I mean, just off the top of your head, there's drone law, isn't there?
Yes,
there's
so much.
all manner of blockchain laws, privacy laws attached to that. I mean,
space law, Terry.
Space law. That's right.
So
yeah.
You need to. I remember when I started 25 years ago, I thought workplace law would be a good thing and went to my master's. No. So I invested in it in my own time, learnt in my own time. And what do you know? I think it's got 6 lawyers in our workplace practice here at Clifford Gilson Lawyers, and it's a specialty. Intellectual property, the same.
Yes.
They're
exploding.
Huge. And now you've got, within workplace law, you've got education law as a specialty sitting within workplace.
Yes.
Within workplace health and safety, you've got educate. The subspecialties, they're growing all the time.
Yes. Yeah. And the techs too, right? So we've got, there's the broad legal tech, but we've got reg tech, right? We've got fintech, we've got health tech. There's all types of techs, but they have specialisms within specialisms, right? So Jemima, I'm going to come to you. What should our law students be doing right now to prepare for the future?
I think, just to the point about the tech and the, reg tech, fintech, as well as legal tech, the thing that kind of flows through all of that is privacy law. And so I think that's an area that's increasingly growing in importance, and it's a specialisation I've seen growing both within, the business that I work for and others. But I think, it's outside of technical legal skills. I think to Riz's point, it's about, thinking about not just the law, but how you can, understanding how a law firm or an in-house legal department operates as a business or a business unit, and the complementary skills aside from being a good technical lawyer.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jennifer, sorry, we've lost Jemima a bit.
Increasingly, and over time, that's assumed. Sorry.
That's all right. I think you're back on. So do you want to finish up those last little bits?
Yeah, sure. So I think in addition to, to what Riz said about trying to get, relevant, even if it's sort of slightly adjacent work experience, skills in things like project management and business skills and financial literacy, being able to, to understand the financial drivers of businesses and, understand what your clients, what's important to your clients is, whether it's through being involved in things like marketing, are going to be incredibly important and valuable.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And Jennifer, let me throw to you on that one as well. How can you, I don't know, I'm going to express it a slightly different way, future proof. I've seen that one in the comments, so let me use it.
Yeah, I think just on top of what both Riz and Jemima have said, I mean, I think it's great now there are courses you can choose at uni that are actually centred around new law and technology. That was never an option when I was at uni, and I think it's great to see so many people taking that as an option now, just to understand on a broad basis, because I think I saw one of the questions where it's, you know, maybe drilling down a little bit more, should you know specific technologies and things like that. I don't see that as absolutely essential, because every company is going to have their own suite of technology, their own portfolio of things that they use. I think it's just about having that sort of overview of, okay, this is being used. What are the examples? How can this help? You know, come into, it seems simple, but even come into podcasts or listen to podcasts, come into panel events like this, hearing from people who've had that experience is something that will really help to inform people coming out of university about what is out there. You know, I don't know if maybe I'm completely alone in this, but it's never like when I was coming out of uni, you do kind of just think there's one path to go down, and not really, I guess, understanding every single different role that you can actually play in law firms nowadays. So, you know, and even just a broad understanding is really helpful at interviews. I'm sure it's going to become a thing where innovation is a question that's asked at interviews. You know, it's something particularly that we're interested in, about examples of where you have been innovative and where you have come up with solutions to things, because that is the whole point of this, is coming up with new solutions, new ways of doing things. And if you have an understanding of that, where it's being used in practice, then it really means you can see, you know, adapt that and fit it into other, you know, other places as well where there's that need.
Another brilliant segue, Jennifer. Thank you. That was fabulous.
We didn't set this up.
I know. So I'm again going to draw in a whole bunch of questions and chat that we've got going on, and kind of pull it out again. And I'm going to ask this question first of you, Riz, if I may. And I'm going to ask you to do what I know that you do on a regular basis already, which is applications have come in now for a new position for a lawyer, for an early career professional or a grad lawyer, and you're looking through them and you're making those, you know, quick decisions that you have to. What are you looking for in terms of the lawyer recruits that you're looking at, and what's likely to stand out? And Jennifer's given us a few hints on that, but what's likely to stand out when you're looking at those applications? So we've got one right in front of you now. You're flipping through it. Away you go.
Oh my goodness. For me, it's what's important is what kind of work experience they've had and done while they were at university, and that gives me a flavour of what they might be passionate about as well. Looking at their what they do in their spare time, so to speak, as well, gives me an idea what kind of volunteering they've done, etc. It gives me a flavour of you know, of what they may be about. It's kind of difficult to choose just from the CV alone, but certainly I would look to work experience and what kind of work experience as well, to give me some ideas as to whether to shortlist them for a role. And I know you haven't asked this, but then I take it to that next level of I try to meet with them based on, you know, that work experience, going back to that one in particular, to then get an idea of, you know, their emotional intelligence, I guess. And, you know, it's hard to pick somebody sometimes and know what their work ethic is going to be like and what their attitude is like to dealing with tricky clients or tricky situations. But ultimately, for me, what, you know, grades they have is not as important as their attitude, their work ethic, their willingness to learn, etc. Those are the kind of things I value above anything else, and that they're trainable, because I would be more than happy to spend the time, invest the time in training them if needs be. But yeah, I certainly look at what kind of work experience, what they do in their spare time, and their cover letter and how that comes across as well. I always like to read the cover letter. It gives me a little bit of a flavour of their personality shining through that as well.
Riz, is there a chance that you'd also ask these folks to do a video?
Yes.
Yeah, because, and I just wanted to underscore that so that folks that are in that position, you know, kind of get themselves ready for that possibility as well, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think, and, you know, it's, you know, don't be afraid to reach out. Don't wait to see if there's a vacancy. I'm not talking just about myself, but any other firm, in-house, private, tech, whatever it might be. Take a chance, get to know their business a little bit, and make sure, you know, that you've got, don't apply a generic cover letter, because sometimes you might forget to replace the name of the business that you're writing to. And you can tell the generics to the ones that have been well thought through as well. I mean, I can use, I'll give you an example, and I'll try and keep it short as I can. The current lawyer who works for me, Britt, she originally applied for a VA role in the business, and unfortunately she wasn't successful. But she wrote back to me, and she wrote this one, and she was on the short list, by the way. She wrote back to me, and it was that letter that clinched it for me to hire her anyway for another role. I made it up, you know, just so I could have her work for me. And as soon as she qualified, I had her on board as a full-time lawyer. And her personality shone through in both the initial application as well as then that follow-up. She took the initiative. So yeah, take the initiative. I guess that's what I'm trying to say, short version.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ben, I wanted to jump to you on this one as well. And we've got a question here, if I can weave that into your response as well, about how would you assess EQ. So I guess if you're using or know of psychometric testing and things like that as well, if you wouldn't mind weaving that into your thoughts on what you're looking for.
Yeah, I think it's just addressing the broad question, the broad answer to the question, how do I as a student maximize my chance of getting a gig? I suppose understand that different sized businesses will have different levels of sophistication. Very big businesses, your educational performance is almost the most important thing to get to the next level, where they then start to look at all those other things like emotional intelligence. Can they play as a team? Do I have good communication skills? What's my level of attention to detail? How accurate am I in data analysis? Can I cognitively function at the rate that I need to? So every business at different scales will have a different process. Smaller organizations, it may be more about, are you involved in the community? Do you have networks, business networks? Can you go out and win work? Can you become a rainmaker? So you've got to understand it depends where you want to go that will dictate the process. When it comes to the specifics, I suppose the CV building exercise, lots of businesses will be looking for that teams. So they're going to look for whether you've played in sporting teams. Lots of businesses will look for that oration skill. In other words, can you get up and present and represent this organization or this business? So they're going to see, were you a debater? Were you involved in theatre? Were you involved in performance? So you need to think about where you want to get to, and you need to then be cognizant of building the CV. I mean, my business, we're very focused on culture. So we're looking for good humans. We're going to look for a CV that has volunteer contribution to community. 99% of law firms probably don't care about that, or maybe they say they do, but they probably don't even look at that. We less focus on the degree, academia, because we figure these other things are more important. And if you're smart enough to get through a law degree, you're probably pretty bright. So does that answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to move along the continuum a little bit with you, Jemima and Jennifer. So from kind of that entry, getting your first job role and picking up a question, and I'm going to call this in summary law plus more, because it relates really to where both of you sit in your careers. So we're not now that early career professional, or at least the grad, but we actually have had a law degree. We may have practiced a little bit, or we've seen other things that have grabbed our attention. And so we're making a transition, right? Really, as you folks effectively have. How do you do that? And or how do you, as people looking for those people, what are you looking for? Because it's not about grades probably anymore. It's about other things. What are those other things that you're looking for a candidate that might want to make, let's say, a career change or a career addition, as the case may be? Jemima, can I start with you on that one?
Yeah, sure. As someone who, I guess, apart from my early career, pre-qualification career working in-house, I then went on to work as a litigator. And I think a lot of the time there's a view that if you're once a litigator, always a litigator. But I think having started my career as a litigator has made me a better commercial lawyer, because I think to what could go wrong, and it teaches you yes.
Jemima, we're losing you a little bit there. If you can hear me.
Almost project.
Sorry, we've lost you a little.
Skill and junior lawyer.
Yes, it is. Thanks. So, yes, sorry about that, Jemima.
Oh,
yeah, that's brilliant.
Sorry.
No worries.
So I'm not sure at what point you lost me, but
just go again. Go on, okay. Do it again.
I'll go again.
Yeah.
Okay, see if it might even be better this time. So I think in terms of transition, there are a couple of different, potential transitions, whether it's from, a type of law. I mentioned that I started my career as a junior lawyer, as a litigator, and then later moved into transactional law. And I think although there were some people who wanted to pigeonhole me as a litigator, I think that has actually made me a better commercial lawyer, because of the way when you've got a large piece of litigation that you have to think about, the various steps, what could go wrong, and the strategy. But also, I think, the point you made about, if something grabs your attention, what do? I say, just have a crack. You pick up a lot of skills that you possibly don't even know you've got in your toolkit, just from, those early years of, where you're training and as a junior lawyer, that I think, don't be afraid to try something new, because there's lots of, if I'm not sure if I'm a retail or an example, but
I think we're
following your nose, and if there's something transition there, but if you've got a good grounding.
I think we've lost Jemima a bit there. Sorry. So Jennifer, I might just throw to you, if I may, to answer that question from your point of view.
Yeah, sure. I think there's a part to it where if I was to see somebody coming in for interview who had been in a more traditional role and they're then coming into a more new law role, I think already it's like, okay, this person's really interested and genuinely, has a passion for this, because I guess it's quite a different and scary change to make if you've been used to one certain way of working. And I think in terms of experience, I guess it would be being able to take the experience that person's had in their previous role and demonstrate why they saw that as a challenge, and what I kind of touched on this earlier before, what challenges they identified previously, areas for improvement, how they are able to put that, how they think that fits into our way of working, and to what they can bring to enhance our offering as well. I think that's really important, because it's not just about having people straight out of university to say, okay, I'm just new in my career and I'm really wanting to give this a go. Whilst we absolutely love that as well, and that's great, it's what other experience can we draw on to do something better than what we're already doing, because that's our whole sort of mantra, I guess, is constantly looking for ways to improve things. So the more experience we have from different areas of law, from different backgrounds, the more rich we're going to be in talent and ability to provide these solutions at the end of the day.
It's doing some of that work on your own as well, isn't it? It's really understanding what your strengths are and what appeals to you to reach out and try and match those opportunities. And then, absolutely have some of those sort of capabilities that we were looking for. I know that we have to wrap shortly, but Jemima, I just wanted to make sure that we grabbed all of your pearls of wisdom before we sign off.
Oh, well, no pressure. But I do very much agree with everything that Jennifer just said in terms of looking at bringing the skills that you've got elsewhere in and how they might apply, because I think, and I'm not sure if I'm, hopefully not repeating the one bit that you did grab from what I said earlier in terms of I think there's a lot of complementary skills you learn in different areas of practice. And I think really just trying to get as experience as you can across different practice areas, and will be a really big help.
Yeah, fantastic. Jackie, we've woven a lot into this session. We've gone from looking at the fabulous background of these folks and their experience and woven that all the way through to, changes in the industry, changes in practice, opportunities in career, skill sets and competencies that are needed in a career. And all of that is actually wrapped into this topic of the future of laws. So really hope that folks found that useful and interesting. I know that all of these folks won't surprise you, are on LinkedIn. So do feel free to reach out to them. I think you'll find this an incredibly generous group of people and an incredibly generous group and community around these topics as well. So with that, my sincere thanks to all of our amazing panelists. And if I may, Jackie, hand it back to you, and thanks everyone for attending.
Thank you very much, Terry. And thank you to Jennifer and Ben and Riz and Jemima as well. I've been sitting here glued to your every word. And I know that the over 100 people that were tuned in were too. So thank you very much on behalf of the College of Law and the future of the legal profession, who are our watchers today. They are certainly learning about the future of the profession, but they themselves are indeed the future of the profession. So I really hope that some of the information that we've shared today has helped smooth the way, or given them a bit of information that has triggered thoughts and plans for their own career journeys and career plans. And I'm sorry that we didn't get to all of the questions, but I hope that we have indeed woven a lot of the answers to your questions through the conversation. So again, on behalf of the College of Law, thank you very much for joining us for the very first session in this year's Careers Academy for 2021. So thank you. I'll sign us off, and I hope everyone enjoys the rest of the day. And thank you again for a fascinating hour. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
All the best.
All the best. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.